Hi yearbook. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is typography. I am a super type nerd, and I love type, and I think type is one of the most beautiful things, and anytime you can give me a cool letter, I love it. So hopefully you guys start to love and see and appreciate type a little bit more after learning about it through these videos. So we're going to start off with Typography 101. So typography, what you need to know about type is a person. Type says something to your reader. It speaks something. It has a voice. So you need to choose your fonts carefully and know that type is a very powerful design tool, especially in a yearbook. Type is all around us, and sometimes we don't notice it, and sometimes that's on purpose from the designer, and other times it's thrown at us big time. So think about the difference between road signs and graffiti. Big difference in type, also big difference in how much we notice them. There's a big difference between type that you would use in instructions versus type for a concert poster. Again, just the letters, they're all the same, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but there's a big difference in the way that they're designed and what they're saying and what they're speaking and why the designer chose it and what they're trying to say about the product or the event, or is it informational or is it artistic. Type is huge, and so it's a very, very powerful tool. I'm going to want you to take notes on type. Again, I'll be checking your notes. Your homework for type is I'm going to have you guys choose two different types of type, and I want you to juxtapose, which means you're using two things that aren't similar, two conflicting things, like positive and negative, fancy and casual, juxtaposition. Google it if you don't know what a juxtaposition is. So I want you to juxtapose two different types of font that are representational of you. So maybe you have a decorative font for your first name and a serif font for your last name, because part of you is fun and the other part of you is a little bit more businesslike. So we'll talk a little bit more about that assignment at the end of this video. So let's talk about type. So one of the classifications of type, and again there's four major kind of categories or families, like the four houses of Harry Potter. So the first house of Harry Potter is, or type, we'll stop using Harry Potter references, you know me, is our serif fonts. So a serif is the little doohickey that comes at the bottom of fonts, those little kind of almost tail. It's called a serif. So fonts that have serifs, they tend to be a little bit more formal. They tend to be a little bit more business-like, a little bit more like authoritarian. So you'll usually see serif fonts in businesses that want to convey something a little bit more trusting, a little bit more institutional, something a little bit classier, sophisticated. They'll use a serif font. So there are several different types of serifs. You don't need to write this down, but if you want to draw the different types of serifs and then have those in your notes, that's fine. It's kind of a fun thing to understand. But there are variations on serifs. The first one is the old style serif. So you can see it's kind of got a rounded top with a flat edge. Then we have the transitional style. So instead of a rounded top, we have a sweeping bottom and then a flat edge. We've got the modern serif, which is flat all the way around, like a flat top. And then we have what's called a slab serif, which is a takeoff of modern, only it's thicker and chunkier. Okay, so those are your serifs. Hold on, my alarm's going off. Okay, Apple Watch. All right, so an example of serif fonts that you might have seen but not really picked up on. Here are just a few with some major brands. So we have Dior, we've got Tiffany and Company, and we've got Miss W's car, Mercedes-Benz. I didn't buy the car because of the font, but I like their style and I like their design. It's very good. So anywho, so you can see all three of these major brands are using a serif font. You can see here they've got these little tails coming off to the side. So Tiffany, Dior, Mercedes, they all sell to really sophisticated idea. Their brand is something luxurious. It's established. It's been around for a while. Your person who's wearing sweatpants and slacking, eating a donut, it doesn't speak to the Dior brand. Dior is French, and you drive in an expensive thing, and it's classy, and it's a certain kind of feeling and representation, and the type really helps convey that. If they use this in a Comic Sans, you would not get the same impression about Dior. Don't ever use Comic Sans. Say it right now. I solemnly swear I will not use Comic Sans. We'll talk about it later. Just don't do it. Okay, so I digress. So sans serif, right here, sans serif. Sans translates to without serif. So if we use that idea, it's without serifs. It's a font without the little tails. That's all it is. So a very popular sans serif font that's used a lot, that some graphic designers love and other ones hate, is Helvetica. Oh, what the Helvetica? We'll talk about it. It's beautiful. It's in road signs. Some argue that it's the most well-designed font that there is. Others would say that it's like the most overused, easiest cop-out font. I'll let you pick. There's a great documentary about Helvetica if you have time. I think it's a really beautiful font. Yes, it is overused, but it's a good one. So yes, Helvetica is an example of a sans serif font. It does not have these little tails. It goes straight down. All right, nice, clean, modern, more casual. But again, this is a great font for reading. So when we're doing body copy, whether it's captions, quotes, longer bits of text, you want to either use a sans serif or a serif font because it's easier for your readers to view. It's more informational. It doesn't clutter it up with like too many little flares and flourishes. It's more purpose driven. So you'll find that most of your books are either written in a sans serif or a serif font. That being said, the next type of font, next house of font, is, oh, we got to show you our examples. So these are some major brands that use sans serif fonts in their logo types. You can see that these brands, while they're major, wonderful brands and they're worth millions and millions of dollars, they're trying to convey something very different than your Dior, your Tiffany, your Mercedes-Benz. When we look at Airbnb, Gumtree, Facebook, Google, they're more casual, they're more approachable. It's like your next door neighbor versus your professor or a politician. This is somebody you'd want to hang out with and have coffee and you feel relaxed and you might wear your yoga pants around, It's far more approachable. We can see that these brands really want to feel approachable, more casual, more common man, and also their choice of using a mixture of uppercase and lowercase fonts. So you can see Airbnb, they're really casual because they're not using any kind of caps in here. There's no want to be authority. Gumtree, they start out with a cap and then they quickly go into lowercase. Facebook, no caps. Again, wanting to be very casual, very appropriate, very much like, hey, yeah, it's like texting. You don't use caps in texting sometimes. Google, again, they're holding on to the caps with their G, but again, I think that's probably because Google takes their G and only uses their G in some little logos. So they separate the signature G and use it later on. So if they made it a lowercase g, they wouldn't be able to do that as well. But again, that's in contrast to like Tiffany and Company. These are all uppercase letters, even though the senders are slightly lower. Over here, they're still all uppercase. This is lowercase, uppercase. You see the I difference? I see. Ha! Okay. All right. So next type of font is a script font. So script fonts are handwriting fonts, what you might refer to as cursive fonts. Like you went and you wrote the font. So usually they're a mixture of upper and lowercase letters. They've got more flourishes and more pizzazz. They give off kind of a feminine vibe, kind of flirty, kind of romantic. That's usually what a script font is connotating. There are exceptions to that rule. Sometimes they're considered retro, but again, it's like you wrote it. Okay. So a script font, here we have two examples. We've got Cadbury, we've got Coca-Cola, kind of evoking the smoothness of Cadbury chocolate. It's creamy, it's relaxed, it's kind of feminine, and it's smooth. Coca-Cola, it's an old logo. But again, they're kind of referencing the rhythm, the flow that is the liquid of Coca-Cola. They haven't really ever tweaked their logo because it's such a signature piece of Coca-Cola. It's so ingrained in the Coca-Cola product that they really don't want to alter it or tweak it, because just like Ford, they've been around forever and their logo kind of evokes that heritage, so they really don't want to change it a whole lot. But yes, they use a script font. So the next kind of font that we have, the last house of font, is what we call decorative fonts. So decorative fonts are art fonts. They are sometimes serif, sometimes sans serif, but they are fonts that are art. What you need to know about decorative and script fonts is they should be used with extreme caution, moderation. In a yearbook, we want to use decorative and script fonts for little details here and there. We never want to do a caption or a body copy in those two house of fonts, those two categories of fonts, because they're overwhelming and our reader really can't read a long amount of information in those fonts. They're great for capturing in attention, but if we were to do a whole paragraph in them, oh my gosh, you would just be so overwhelmed. So we reserve script and decorative fonts for usually main headlines, attention grabbers, something to pull the reader's eye in. So they're like sprinkles, okay? You put a little bit on top, but you don't eat the whole bowl of sprinkles. Most people don't. If you do, okay. But anyways, they're like sprinkles. They're like a cherry on top. You want to have a little bit of moderation, but if you have too many cherries, it might make your tummy upset. Same thing with decorative and script fonts. So for your notes, again, you should have the 4 types of fonts: decorative, script, sans serif, serif. That should be in your notes for class tomorrow. And then in addition, I'd like you to write your name in 2 different types of fonts. So first name in one kind of font, last name in another kind of font. So I'd like you to look at font pairings. Maybe you mix a decorative with a serif. Maybe you mix a sans serif with a script. See what happens when you do different types of pairings of font, and think about what that font is saying about you. Maybe you want to have people know that you're a little bit retro, so you use kind of a retro script font for your first name and then a sans serif font for your last name. I don't know, mix it up, see what happens. But that will be your check for your homework for tomorrow. So your notes are worth 5 points and your example of your fonts are worth 5 points. All total, your check for understanding and doing your homework is worth 10 points in the gradebook. Okay, nerds. Thank you so very much for entertaining my type nerdness. There will be more type lessons to come because I am a type nerd and I love it, and hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. All right, see you guys later. Bye.